welcome Ryan McDonnell, Hawthorn Builders. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Mark.
I've met you before. I know all about you.
We spent a little time together.
Absolutely. So I know that you do an incredible job building homes, but I understand you do a lot more than just building new homes. Tell me everything that you do.
So, well, we have two entities, Mark. Hawthorn Builders, which you mentioned, and Hawthorn Properties, which I can get into a bit later. But Hawthorn Builders is it's a residential custom home building company. We do a lot of new construction. We also, what a lot of people may not realize, we do a lot of renovations too. So we're primarily a company that's hired by a homeowner to do a custom project on their site, whether it's a new construction, tear down, start from scratch, or a large-scale renovation to an existing home.
And how did you end up in Needham? I know you do. I know you service a lot of towns, but I know you're based in Needham. You from Needham originally, or?
Not originally, Mark. I'm actually from the Midwest originally, the Detroit area, and moved around a bit as a kid and landed at Boston College. And after experiencing Boston and really kind of growing up here as a young adult, my wife and I found our way to Needham almost by chance. And then we ended up moving next door to a guy named Matt Roth, whom I had known back in a previous life in like middle school in the Hartford, Connecticut area. And Matt and I, as next door neighbors, sort of hit it off, and both of us were doing some things that didn't really fulfill us professionally at the time, and sort of dove headfirst into a world that we were completely unprepared for. We bought a couple properties, one in Roslindale.
And this is without any experience in the real estate business or building?
Well, Matt thankfully was in the real estate world, but in the sort of the banking, the financial side of it. I have an accounting background. I was in the financial consulting realm, and neither of us grew up in the trades. So we approached this from a completely different angle, not a sort of a do-it-yourself kind of, and then expand and hire employees. It was more of we recognize the things that we are not good at or don't have experience in, so let's surround ourselves with people who are good at those things, and we're going to run and grow the business. And that's sort of how we've built our company from kind of the outside in, as opposed to a lot of traditional builders tend to build it from the ground up, being the tradesman and then sort of expanding that way, and that we didn't have the experience.
So go back to that first project. You said
the first one, it was a 3-family in Roslindale. We bought it. Matt and I did a lot of the work ourselves, and I use the word renovate loosely in this context. We fixed it up. We converted it to condominiums. We sold all 3, and we lost a considerable amount of money. And not to be deterred.
But you got back up.
Right. Not to be deterred, we went and did the exact same thing in Dedham with another 3-family. So after losing considerably more money in that venture, we sort of took a step back.
Hold on, the second venture was a loss as well?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Wow, okay. Third venture?
Third venture, we looked around the town we were both living in, and we're just, this is where we need to focus. It's a stable real estate market. It's a growing real estate market. This was in 2005, 2006.
This is within the town of Needham,
you're saying? Yeah, and we stumbled upon a cape that was dilapidated. It needed a lot of work, and we had the idea of taking off the second floor, turning it into a colonial, and renovating every square inch of it. And we did that, and we subbed ourselves out. We were part of the labor crew. We hired a GC that had experience and was able to to really direct the project. But Matt and I were part of the labor force, for good or for bad. And that house got built and it got sold. We did a little better than we did in Dedham and Roslindale, but not enough certainly to make a living on. But that house still there. It's been sold again. So
hasn't fallen down yet.
No, I do drive by every once in a while to make sure it's still there, and
that's good.
There's not anything noticeably hanging off the roof or anything like that, which is good. But that kind of showed us that this is really what we ought to be doing is focusing in Needham, and then we sort of went on from there, and we did our first tear down rebuild right after that, which was successful. And by this time we're gaining some experiences. We're learning sort of more and more about what we didn't know, and then ultimately we're able to get the building part down, and then focus really on the business and what kind of a business we wanted to be. And that, as it turns out, is a customer service business. Is really who we are. Our product is a finished high-end residential home, but our deliverable is a client relationship and a customer process.
And what was the timeline? So when was that first house that you attempted to make a profit on?
The very first one was 2005, and then we did those two condo conversions were about 2005, 2006, and then the Needham house was, I think, 2006, 2007. And then our success started to really come in 2008, which is ironic because that's when the economy was at its worst, and we were very fortunate that Needham was largely insulated from a lot of what the rest.
Picked a good town.
Yeah, and again, like I said, just like landing here was almost by chance. So it's, we were really fortunate that Needham was fairly insulated from what a lot of local communities even were experiencing from a real estate perspective with declining markets, but Needham was very consistent.
Well, I know we've moved several people that you've built homes for, and I know they're thrilled with the job you do, and obviously you've built a home for me as well, which we love. So it's a good thing that you didn't quit after those first two losses.
Right.
So where does most of your business come from? Are they repeat customers, referrals from current customers?
So like any small business, especially in a community, you do get a lot of your initial work out of referrals, and we like I alluded to, we really focused on it being a client service business, and just knowing that the client experience takes precedent over sort of short-term profit, right? So if there's an issue at a house and it's debatable as to what's the root cause of this, it's better to just let's leave here with a happy client and a good product, as opposed to, well, really we were right, so we shouldn't, we should charge them. I mean, that kind of conversation. I mean, Matt and I, as business owners, we're on the opposite side of a lot of issues, and that's part of any business. But the reality is, we fundamentally are in the same boat in that regard, and it's that the client experience is tantamount, and it has to be the driving force of decision making. So from that, we have a lot of clients that were happy to refer us to friends and family, and we were able to grow and need them that way, and that's gotten us to where we were. And then now, as we look to sort of take our product into other markets, it's a different business development platform. We're now focusing on relationships with the architecture community, and really talking to designers and architects who represent clientele that we don't have relationships with, we don't have inroads to. So it's partnering with those types of individuals who have been in the industry and kind of can expose us to different markets that we don't naturally have relationships in.
How many homes have you built at this point?
So counting our renovations, I mean, we're well over 150. We're probably touching 200 at this point.
And which towns are most of your projects in? I know Needham, obviously.
Needham, definitely.
The surrounding towns as well.
So after Needham, I would say Wellesley, Newton have probably the most of our projects. But we're in Cambridge, we're in Brookline, Dover. We're going to be doing a project in Belmont, which is a town we've not worked previously. So we're expanding to different communities, and that's a product of the different relationships that we're fostering.
Now, do you find that challenging or difficult when you have to travel to the other towns? Are your subcontractors the same? Or is it more difficult working in towns that are an hour away or a half hour away?
Yes, and there are some geographic challenges there. With not only with subcontractors and where they're coming from, but also where they have to spend, their days, and trying to schedule a lot of, as you can attest, the workflow is a challenge to the project management aspect of our job. So, a lot of the tasks that go on have dependencies. So one guy can't start till another guy's finished, and trying to align those days so there isn't any inefficiency between the finishing of one guy's task and the start of another. And then when you add geography to that, it can be even more challenging. But what we're looking at, we map out our projects as we have different project managers, and we try to keep them geographically focused. So the project manager that's handling a job in Cambridge is not also handling one in Dover.
Got it.
So we try to do it to tackle some of the challenges that way. We are expanding some of the roles with lead carpenters who are on the job more full time. That are really there every day. and it's oversight, and it's a lot of coordination, and it's like running any business. You just have to see where your pitfalls are and be out in front of them, not reacting to issues, but more being proactive and trying to prevent them.
So I know one of the challenges you also have is that certainly cabinets, for example, kitchen cabinets could be ready before the contractor is ready to install the cabinets. So we partner with you on that. We'll take in the cabinets, we'll hold them for you till the house is ready to receive them. So we'll provide some storage and some deliveries for you. But I would think that there are a whole bunch of other logistic challenges that are involved. Tell me about some of them. Do you find that
well, you mentioned a big one, and it goes back to relationship building. So we met under completely unrelated circumstances that really didn't have anything to do with your business, but your business is now a part of our business, and there's some symmetries, and we've been able to work together, both in, as you mentioned, being able to have a good referral base for clients, because our clients are inevitably moving, right? And you're the first name that I give, and having that relationship is very helpful. And now, from a receiving and handling standpoint, I mean, that's something that that we've been dealing with for years on what to do and how to be out in front of having our product ready, but then there's maybe issues on the job site that they're not ready for. So being able to have our stuff stored and knowing that it's handled and it's a good resource, that's incredibly helpful.
Well, we appreciate the referrals, and we appreciate that business of you handling some of the materials for you. So since you started, how have you seen the industry change? People wanting higher end appliances? Are they wanting bigger homes, smaller homes, more open floor plans? What are some of the changes you've seen over the years?
So definitely the trend has gotten to the open living space on the first floor is a huge must for a lot of people, and that also, we have seen a trend, especially in new construction, where houses have gotten larger, and it really depends on the clients. And what we see, we've dealt with so many different clients with so many different sort of must-haves in their homes, that we kind of, to pick out some of the ones that are pretty consistent, is where the money is really spent is on the kitchen. It's on the main family living space, and master bathrooms are really high up there. Mud rooms are incredibly important. But we're seeing a lot of advances in technology, where the home automation is becoming a big ticket for a lot of people. That's something that really often needs to be addressed on the early stages of a project. One, because there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, but also two, it's a big number on a budget sometimes, and sometimes people don't realize that how expensive those types of things are going to be. But the energy efficiency that's just occurred just in the span of my career in this industry. I mean, I can remember when we were working with the icy insulation, the spray foam insulation, and it was really at a time where the town of Needham was unsure as to what the product was and how to really inspect it and what the criteria needed to be, and now it's a standard, and it's incredible to see something like that sort of take root over a really short period of time. But the energy efficiency is a big ticket for a lot of people. They want to have a smart home. They want a home that is safe and that is efficient. And the products, all like the heating system, the equipment that's being developed in order to give you a high efficiency heating system and cooling system, those products have evolved incredibly over the past just 5-6 years even.
Well, I know one home in particular you built, the heating and electric bills are actually half of what they were in the people's prior home, which were very similar.
Yeah.
So whatever you're doing to insulate these homes, I know it's working very well, and we do get to talk to a lot of your clients, people that you built homes for, and they're all thrilled. So I know you're doing a fantastic job. Where do you see your company 5 years from now?
Mark, that is a great question, and it's one that we talk about as a company regularly. And what we want to be is one of, if not the best residential home builder in the Boston area. We want to have a name that's synonymous with that, and we recognize that there's a couple different things that go into that. One is perfecting our product and being consistent in its deliverable. That doesn't mean putting out the same product every time, but putting out the same level of quality, having the same customer experience. Those things need to be consistent, and they need to be automatic. And that's sort of taking care of your house. And no pun intended. Then the rest of it is development. It's business development. It's getting into markets that our name isn't a household name just yet. It's developing the relationships with, like I said, the architects that are in front of these homeowners that are ultimately hiring builders. But we have to prove ourselves in order to do that, and we have to deliver on the chances that we're getting, some of them right now, with some of these architects and their clients. And we've got to really put forth a good product, and that's our struggle, and that's what we, every day, all of our meetings with our people and the checklists and the structure and the things that we're putting in. That's gonna pay off down the road. And every project that we have has pitfalls, and we, since day one, we strive not to make the same mistake twice, and we want to learn from the experiences that our clients have, the feedback that they give us. I mean, our experience together was incredibly beneficial for us as a company. We learned a lot from you, and you had a different perspective coming in, a different style of participation in the process.
To say the least,
yeah,
yes.
But I mean, in market, it was valuable, and it's, being able to, I remember saying to you at one point, I've got some young boys at home, and I remember, saying, I think I kind of want my kids to come work for you for a few years, get a taste of what
I have them scheduled for the summer.
So and that's the kind of thing we have to. We know we're not perfect. We don't have this down to the point where it runs itself. This is an industry that requires oversight, requires participation at all levels, and we know that we have to focus our efforts on making our company as good as it can be, and that's my buy-in, that's Matt's buy-in, and that's all of our leadership team, and down to the guys that work as hourly laborers. Everybody's got to be on the same page.
Well, I know from my experience working with you, as well as speaking to some of your other clients, one of the great things about your company is also that you and Matt and your project managers, you're all very accessible. So if we have a question, we have a concern, we need some advice, whatever it might be, that you're there. We're not waiting for you to get back to us in a month, or you're not away for 90 days on a vacation. You're really, you're hands-on, you're accessible, you're involved. And on the rare occasion that someone has a concern, you're there to address it. And I think that's very important throughout the process. So who else do you have? I know that you have Matt, you're the co-founder or owner with you. Who are the other key employees at the company?
So our leadership team consists of Matt and myself, and then we have a vice president of operations. His name is Chris Palenskar, who is tremendously important to our organization. He has years of experience in the trades, very knowledgeable, very hands-on, and as hard a worker as you'll find. And he's committed to the company. He's the first one in the morning, often the last one to leave. Really, much of the challenge that Matt and I have is trying to take things off of Chris's plate, and in doing that, one of the things we've been able to do is bring in some really talented project managers that report to him. And these guys are the boots on the ground. They're managing the job sites. They're interacting with the subs, and we've got some real experienced high-end project managers now that are making our job sites work more efficiently. And then on the design side, we have Jessica Shabbat. She's our design director. She's also key in our business development side. She comes from a design background and has really a great eye for it. She's great with clients. She understands that clients are all different and they have different styles, and her job is to sort of understand what their style and how they want their house to look, and then get them in the right, put them in the right direction, and put things in front of clients as far as design options and choices that really kind of enhance what the client is bringing to the table in their own style. And that's a lot of times easier said than done. And then she's got a couple of design associates on staff that help her with a lot of the day-to-day. And in building out these teams, we've had, like any, you're going to have some turnover here and there, but we've had really good retainage of our key people that have been with us for a long time. So they get it. They know what our core values are. Mm-hmm. They know what the expectations are from a client perspective, and we're able to just strive towards that consistent high-level output that we're looking for.
So I know you mentioned Jess, and I know you work with architects, but in fact, if someone doesn't have an architect, you can do the whole process in-house now. Is that correct?
We can, and for a period of time, we were sort of focused on the design build side of it, and I think our shift over the last few years, once we realized that if we wanted to expand our niche, which is focusing on building in Needham, we needed to develop these other relationships. And we found that it's difficult to market yourself as a design build firm and have, be able to go to an architect and say, hey, work with us, because they're saying, well, wait a minute, aren't I competing with you? So we decided a few years ago to sort of maybe take a little bit off of the design build side and focus it more on working with outside architects, because that's where the growth path really was going to be. Now, having that kind of ace in the hole, saying if you have a client that comes to you and they say, listen, I need to do this, this, and this, and we're able to handle that in-house, we'll make a decision whether, from a business perspective, whether it makes sense to do that.
Understood. So you work with a lot of architects. You have the capability of doing it in-house, but the trend has been more to work with the architects. Got it. So I know TV is very important to you, and I heard a long time ago you were part of a television show. What was that show? I don't.
So I mentioned earlier in our conversation about Hawthorn Properties, which is a standalone real estate brokerage that we own and operate. It has a lot of symmetry with Hawthorn Builders. We're able to handle brokerage needs for our clients, but also for third parties. But
so that's a full service real estate
entity.
Okay.
Yes, and so myself and including Matt Roth, there's a third partner in that entity. His name is Rob Tickton. He also goes by Needham's broker, which is fun. So he and I had a show on the Needham channel that was called What's My House Worth, where we would run down each month the prior month's sales in Needham and just give commentary. And it was lighthearted. It was fun to do. We did it for about 7 years. And earlier this year, we decided that we wanted to kind of put that on hiatus, much to the chagrin of the Needham channel. But since then, we came up with another concept that was more in line with Hawthorn Builders, in that it was to chronicle the development of one of Hawthorn Builders' projects. So the Needham channel is providing the support, and we are basically focused on the build out of 1102 Highland Ave in Needham, which is an 1880s home. It's a fixture right as you're coming in from the Heights into the center of town, and we're renovating it and expanding it, and it's a really cool project. And the Needham channel is sort of filming the behind the scenes to
So
that.
is that content currently on the Needham
There's
channel?
been one episode that has aired. The second episode should be coming out really any time. And then there probably will be maybe 3 to 6 total episodes, just depending on scheduling and content and whatnot. But it's called What's My House Worth? Project Highland. It's on the Needham channel. You could probably find it at some point. It's also on their website, but it's
and eventually on your website.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's a peek behind the scenes sort of what goes on in terms of renovating a house like this. I mean, this is a home that's been standing since 1880.
That sounds very interesting.
Hasn't had a lot done to it since then, but.
And so you're in the middle of that project, towards the end. Where are you?
We're insulating and plastering, about to board and plaster the house. So we're about to head into the finish, which is the most sort of fast-paced. A lot of guys doing a lot of different things.
And if someone wants to speak with you or Matt or someone about a renovation project or about building a new home, should they call, go to your website? What's the best way to communicate?
There's access forms on our website that you can fill out. That's at hawthorn-builders.com. You can call our office anytime. That number, 781-707-6564. You can, Googling us and finding us is very easy, and we're like, as you mentioned, accessible, and always willing to talk to people about their projects.
Yeah, I've been on the website, and the portfolio section you have that shows your work is really fantastic. It gives all different types of homes, beautiful pictures. It gives everyone a very good indication of what your company is capable of doing. Well, I appreciate the business you send us, and I want to congratulate you on your success.
Thank you.
You have quite a good story, and thank you for being on the show.
All right, thanks a lot, Mark. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.